Hear just how good saving money can sound.
Weekday mornings, politics comes first with the all-new morning lineup. Way too early with Willie Geist at 5:30 Eastern. Morning Joe with Joe and Mika at 6. And the morning meeting with Dylan Radigan at 9. The all-new morning lineup on MSNBC, the place for politics.
The drip, drip, drip of new details continues in the coal industry lobbyists posing as minority groups via the U.S. mail scandal. We're going to have to get that one an acronym, I think. Tonight we are following the latest developments about this letters to members of Congress, which appeared to be from legitimate interest groups and constituents, but they were actually works of fraud. They were from a lobbying firm working for the coal industry. The extent of the fraud is evident here. You're looking at the letterhead of a local Virginia Hispanic group, which was stolen and then used to fake a constituent letter opposing the climate change bill. Now, as we reported last night, that particular letter and a handful of similar forgeries purporting to come from local NAACP chapters were sent to Democratic Congressman Tom Perriello of Virginia, whose staff figured out that the letters were fake. But we now know of at least 12 letters, and they didn't all go to Congressman Perriello. Forged letters were also dispatched to Representatives Kathy Del Kemper and Chris Carney, both Democrats of Pennsylvania. And both of them, unlike Congressman Perriello, voted the way these fraudulent letters told them to vote, against the cap-and-trade climate change bill. Now, Congresswoman Del Kemper's office says that the letters did not influence her vote. Her spokesman sent us a statement today that says, quote, "To be sure, this is an unfortunate incident involving several out of thousands of letters that Representative Del Kemper received regarding this important issue. At the end of the day, Representative Del Kemper voted in the interest of the 3rd District of Pennsylvania and her constituents." Congressman Carney's office has had no comment. No comment on whether he knew the letters were fake before he voted against the climate bill. No comment on whether the fake letters influenced his vote. He's just had no comment. Nevertheless, we are learning more today about the timeline behind the forgeries, thanks in part to Congressman Ed Markey, who is chair of the House Select Committee on Energy Independence and Global Warming, and he's investigating these fraudulent letters. Congressman Markey sent out a letter today addressed not to Bonner and Associates, the lobbying firm responsible for the forgeries, and a group that's famous for exactly this kind of shady strategy, but instead he sent the letter to America's Coalition for Clean Coal Electricity, the coal industry front group for whom the forger or forgers at Bonner and Associates were hired to work. This coal industry group has now admitted to knowing that this fraud was being perpetrated by its subcontractor as of June 24th. Now that's relevant because that's 2 days before the vote on the climate bill in the House. Get the problem here? The coal industry knew what it was paying for, fraud meant to aid its own cause, but they didn't contact members of Congress who received the fraudulent letters before the vote, even though they knew they had been sent. In fact, the coal industry didn't address the fraud at all until the Charlottesville, Virginia Daily Progress made it public late last week, and kudos to them for the scoop. Then, of course, after it was public, the coal industry said they were outraged. So one part of the coal industry's current lobbying effort might just be mail fraud, but that is not their only political strategy. After all, the battle over the climate change bill isn't over. It just moved to the Senate. Politico reports today that the coal industry is readying a barrage of web and radio and TV and print ads that'll target Senate Democrats in their home states over the August recess. Also, they're busy doing media interviews, including having one of their spokesmen make what I honestly believe is the most jaw-dropping argument I have seen anyone make about an American political issue all year with a straight face. His name is Joe Lucas. He's a spokesman for the coal industry group that we're talking about here. And he told the Guardian newspaper yesterday this, quote, "I can take you to places in eastern Kentucky where community services were hampered because of the lack of flat space to build factories, to build hospitals, even to build schools. In many places, mountaintop mining, if done responsibly, allows for land to be developed for community space." You know, it is true. Cutting off the tops of mountains does create more flat space in that horribly hilly part of the world. You know, maybe it's those darn hills that explain why the Appalachian marble shooting team has never won a tournament. They're also really bad at billiards. Everything's tilty. Don't West Virginians deserve more flatness? That's their argument. Joining us now is Democratic Congressman Frank Pallone of New Jersey, who has introduced a bill to restrict coal companies' dumping. Congressman, thanks very much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Let me just start by giving you a chance to respond to the argument that mountaintop mining is awesome because it creates more flatness.
Mountaintop mining is a disaster, and it creates pollution, and it has a negative impact on the communities and people's health, and it's just, I think it's a disaster for the environment.
Describe what mountaintop removal is. I mean, is it really the full-scale shearing off of the tops of hills?
Well, basically, they blast the top of the hill, if you will, and then they take the waste and dump it into the stream, rivers or streams nearby, and they pollute those streams.
So you bring the valleys up and the hill and the peaks
Right.
down.
And the water is polluted, and people drink it or use it for other purposes, and it affects them in a negative way.
Do you think that the issue of forged letters and this made-up opposition that the coal industry has been caught doing now, do you think that will be enough to interest Congress and the Justice Department to investigate? Is this something that could potentially be a criminal matter?
I think it's possible, and I'm sure they will, and they certainly should investigate, because, we rely, and I think democracy relies on a certain amount of truth, that when people are writing to you that they are what they purport to be, and I think it is a form of fraud that should be investigated.
Do you think that this scandal, such as it is, and I realize there's a lot of scandals competing for attention right now, but being caught in this way, while the industry is still aggressively lobbying to kill the climate bill in the Senate, does the scandal hurt their chances of getting what they want?
Oh, I think so. I mean, first of all, Rachel, I should point out that, in the climate change bill, that there were a lot of measures that actually helped the coal industry. So I'm not sure I understand, what this was all about and why they were even doing this, but I think it hurts their cause. They're no longer credible.
How credible and how responsible have they been as part of the debate over energy issues over the year? I mean, the reason that I keep talking about this clean coal group is because they keep doing stuff like having lumps of coal re-record Silent Night and other like hymns in order to make them songs that are pro-coal. I mean, there's the tactics that they've been involved in. They're, to my eye at least, what seems to be feigned outrage over this Bonner group doing exactly what the Bonner group has done over the years famously, implies to me that they're just not an actor to be trusted in the debate. Is that how they're seen in Congress?
No, I don't think they've been seen that way. I think this is going to really hurt them. Actually, during the climate change debate, they worked very actively to try to make the case that we should do research and invest money for clean coal energy, and I think they were actually taken rather seriously. So I think this hurts them a lot because it does go against their credibility.
Do you think cap and trade is going to survive the Senate?
I think so. I mean, I don't know what form, but it is very important, and I think that, from what we hear, the Senate's going to take it up in September and October, and we're hopeful it'll be a bill that's just as strong as the House bill.
Congressman Frank Pallone, Democrat of New Jersey, somebody who's had a lot of interesting coal issues. Thanks very much for joining us tonight. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Rachel.